Welcome everyone. My name is Jill Hill, and this is my lovely daughter,
Isabella.
And this is her first year here presenting as a presenter at the Family Cafe Conference. This is my, I don't know how many times I've been presenting, many times. And we're here today to talk about mental health, signs and symptoms, and also we're going to do it from a youth perspective. And Isabella's going to share her story about mental health, particularly her mental health disorder. And so, you want to get started?
Who has mental health? Everyone has mental health. It's really where you are with your mental health. Mental health refers to a cognitive, behavioral, and emotional well-being. It's about how you think, feel, and behave.
So, how we handle stress and relate to others and how we make choices can really impact our daily lives. It's important every stage of life. Mental health is very important in every stage of life, especially in adolescence. As we know, 50% of mental health illnesses begin at the age of 14. 50% of lifetime mental health illnesses begin at the age of 14. So if you are sitting in your seats, you're going to see these little books. They're called On Our Sleeves. They are produced by Wilson's Children's Hospital, which is one of our partners. I work for the Partnership for Child Health. And they are for children. They are for you to talk to children about mental health. And there is a website attached to it as well. And we have some information up here that we'll hand out later about how to talk to your children about mental health. Since they start as early, as 3, 4, 5 years old with mental health disorders, it is important to talk about your children about mental health. And so it's a very good website to go to and very interesting to get the information.
And one thing to definitely make clear, mental health is not the same as mental illnesses. They're two completely, they're related, but they're different things. Why are we talking about mental health? We're talking about mental health because mental health problems are common. Essentially, almost everyone has some sort of
One in five?
1 in 5 youth has a mental health challenge.
So also according to Symptom, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, we are 49th in the country for mental health funding. So Georgia is ahead of us in mental health funding. So the only two behind us is Alabama and Texas. So that should tell you something. Also, nearly 90% of people who die by suicide had an underlying mental health illness. And eating disorders can develop in children as young as 8 years old. And eating disorders are a mental health illness as well.
A mental health disorder is a diagnosable illness that affects a person's thinking, emotional state, and behavior. It disrupts a person's ability to work or attend school, carry out daily activities, engage in satisfying relationships. And it's not something that happens once, it's something that happens continuously throughout a period of time.
Right, so like when mom says, hey, they don't act this way at home, I don't know why they're acting this way at school. Well, that's not a diagnosable mental health disorder, because if at home they're not having the same behaviors they're having at school, then there's something going on. So we need to figure out what's going on. Now, is it that because mom doesn't put any demands on the child at home, or is it because there is a strict regimen at school, or is it because school there is demands and there is expectations, and at home there isn't? Or is it that at home there is demands and expectations and at school there isn't? So we have to look at the whole situation.
Can you name a mental health disorder?
Can anyone name a mental health disorder they've heard of?
Schizophrenia.
I'm sorry?
Schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia, okay. Anybody? What? Depression? Anxiety?
And I think the big with autism,
Autism?
because I
It is
think
in
some,
the DSM-5. So the
Yeah.
DSM-5 is the book that
They-
does do the diagnostic, so it is in there.
yeah.
So autism is one of those things that is it mental health or is it a disability? So it's really kind of both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know that's
I'm
it.
at the neighbor base and we see our kids and we lump it under the DSM-5 under mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know before, because he has autism disorder, but they're like, it's always like, okay, yeah, it's just, I don't know, they don't know where to put him
I got
exactly.
you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
They won't put it medical.
Right.
We won't put it medical under our criteria for ESP.
Right. Most people put it under disabilities,
Yes.
especially in schools. They don't
Yes.
put it under mental health. They put it under disability.
Disability,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's how it's going to translate. So, does anybody else have another one that they can think of?
ADHD.
I'm sorry?
ADHD.
ADHD, yeah. Okay. Okay. Whoa. I don't know what that is. Did they put it in the wrong room? Do you know what that is?
No.
Why not?
Is it the room next to us?
I think it is.
Oh, this is so much fun! We're in a movie!
This puts anxiety.
Yeah.
Exciting.
It does. That can induce anxiety right there. I think everyone had anxiety.
I was just here.
I didn't.
Okay.
Okay, well.
That was fun. So these are some common mental health disorders that we do hear a lot about. I don't think the camera's on.
You know what? Wait, this is actually this.
So,
Are you checking?
huh?
Are you checking?
What? Red light means it's on.
Yeah,
Let's
red
go.
light.
Oh, okay. So ADHD, ADD, ODD. They might not know what any one of those acronyms is. You know, I live in acronym world.
He
So.
doesn't.
Okay.
Oppositional defiance disorder, disorder.
Okay, ADD is attention deficit disorder, ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ODD is oppositional defiant disorder. Yeah. Okay. Oppositional defiant disorder is the no kid. That's how I explain it. Anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, depression, eating disorders, psychosis, post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Compulsive, obsessive compulsive disorder, otherwise known as OCD, personality disorders, impulse control, addiction disorders, which is a substance use disorder, and then there's mood disorders. So we're only going to talk about a couple of those today. Go ahead. Oh, first off, who on here? Go ahead.
Has mental health.
Yep. Who has a mental health disorder?
Kanye.
Kanye? Okay. Okay. So you think Kanye has one? What about Leonardo DiCaprio?
I think
all of them. All of them.
What about Halle Berry?
She has.
What about Prince Harry?
Yes.
I think all of them have.
You think so?
All of them.
Even Oprah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wait. What about my man,
Oh, yeah.
The what? Yes.
My man, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see, who has it?
They all do that.
Oh, they have bipolar.
That's it's
Oh,
on it.
they do, they all do.
Okay.
They all do.
Yes,
They all do.
the poor prince, he has panic attack disorders.
Mhm.
Your husband has depression.
I know, my husband, my baby over there has depression. So,
Oh my goodness. Kanye has bipolar.
Bipolar. You can see.
Oh, yeah.
Robin Williams has depression.
Oh, that's one.
Halle Berry was suicidal and depression. The beautiful woman had anxiety. Beyonce,
Beyonce.
you know. So anyone can have a mental health disorder.
Mhm.
You would be surprised with how many people do, and you never know it. And so, you know, you can live with a mental health disorder. I have lived with one my whole life, or two actually, my whole life. So, you do learn to live with it.
What is a sign and what is a symptom?
Right, so what's the difference between a sign and a symptom?
But that was giving it to you. So a sign is something that can be observed, and a symptom is a subjective experience of a potential health issue which cannot be observed by a doctor. So a symptom is something that cannot be observed, and a sign is something that can.
So a sign is something you can see, or you can examine. Like I can examine if you have a fever because I could put a thermometer on you, but I can't examine how you feel. So if you say I feel like my head's going to explode, I can't examine that, but you can tell me how you feel, right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference between a sign and a symptom.
Physical signs and symptoms.
Of mental health disorders are
Okay. Pounding heart, chest pain, rapid heartbeat, blushing, adrenaline rush, fast breathing or shortness of breath, dizziness, fatigue, chronic pain, tics and twitches, choking, dry mouth, muscle aches, pain, restlessness. Those are just some of them. Signs and symptoms of emotions and behaviors. Emotions are depression and or mood swings, feeling sad or down, unrealistic or excessive anxiety or guilt. Excessive irritability, lack of emotion or emotional response. Some behaviors are crying spells, inability to manage responsibilities, slow movement, loss of motivation, use of drugs or alcohol, and talking rapidly. Some thoughts are frequent self-criticism or self-blame. There is prolonged or strong feelings of irritability or anger, rigid thinking, racing thoughts, and lack of insight.
if you look at it for kids, if you look at it for a preschool child, you're going to have kids that feel helpless or uncertain, fear of being separated from their parent or caregiver, cry or scream a lot, eat poorly, lose weight, return to bedwetting, like they've stopped the bedwetting and now they return to it. They have nightmares, develop new fears, are not developing on the next growth stage, so they stop maybe meeting milestones or they slow down, have changes of behavior, and they start asking questions about death, okay? So elementary school children become anxious and fearful, worry about their own or the other's safety. They're really worried about, are you going to be okay? Is something going to happen to you? Or is something going to happen to me? They feel guilt or shame, have a hard time concentrating, have difficulty sleeping, become easily startled. And then middle and high school children feel depressed or alone. They may start using or abusing alcohol or drugs. They feel like they're going crazy, feel different from everyone else, take too many risks, have sleep disturbances. They say they have no feeling about an event. They or have no emotions. They're emotionless. and show changes in their behavior. So they may start distancing themselves, or they may start isolating themselves from others.
Some common mental health disorders. First, each year in America, 1 in 5 teens aged 13-18 experience a mental health condition, and LGBTQ individuals are twice as likely as others to experience a mental health condition such as major depression or generalized anxiety disorder. Anxiety disorder is 6 or more months of chronic exaggerated worry and tension that is unfounded or much more severe than the normal anxiety most people experience. People who have an anxiety disorder often deal with recurring intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are unwanted, automatic thoughts that get stuck in your mind that cause great distress and anxious thinking, which can be extremely difficult to escape. There are some major types of anxiety disorders, which is generalized anxiety disorder, which is chronic worry about a variety of concerns and other symptoms of anxiety, often without a particular trigger. Obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, now in its own diagnosis category. This involves recurring unwanted thoughts and repetitive behaviors. Panic disorders, which is repeated episodes of intense fear or panic attacks, leading to physical symptoms such as chest pains, heart palpitations, and shortness of breath, and social anxiety disorder or social phobia, overwhelming anxiety around social situations. Anxiety, some causes, some research found that generalized anxiety disorder or GAD may run in families, so it might be biological and may grow worse during stress, so a stress can trigger it. Some treatments have been medication, behavioral therapy, and cognitive behavioral therapy. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is obsessions or thoughts, images, or compulsions that occur repeatedly. People do not want to have these ideas, find them disturbing and intrusive, and usually recognizes that they don't make sense. People with OCD live with intense, recurrent, unwanted thoughts, obsessions, or rituals, compulsions, which they feel they cannot control. Some rituals can include hand washing, counting, checking, or cleaning. Are often performed to prevent, in hope of preventing obsessive thoughts and making them go away. Some of these rituals only provide temporary relief. And left untreated, obsessions and the need to perform rituals can overtake a person's life. Depression, the symptoms of depression in children and everyone very much vary. Early medical studies focused on mass depression, where a child's depression was evidenced by acting out or angry behavior. Particularly in younger children, many children display sadness or low mood, similar to adults who are depressed. About 2.5% of children in the U.S. live with depression. Depression is significantly more common in boys under the age of 10, but by age 16, girls have a greater incidence of depression. Some signs and symptoms may be irritability or anger, social withdrawal, difficulty concentrating, vocal outbursts or crying, fatigue, low energy, and thoughts of death or suicide. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is a chronic condition including attention difficulty, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. People may experience some behaviors such as aggression, excitability, fidgeting, hyperactivity. Some cognitive might be absent-mindedness, difficulty focusing, forgetfulness, and some mood may be anger, anxiety, boredom, excitement, or mood swings. Some treatments can include medication and talk therapy. Attention signs of inattentive behavior has difficulty following instructions. With this one, you have to be careful because it could just be your child just might have another issue that's difficult for them to follow the instructions, or it's maybe said in a way they don't understand. So you can't just say just because they don't understand instructions they have ADHD. It also has difficulty focusing on tasks, loses things at home and school, forgets things often, fails to complete homework or tasks. Some types of hyperactivity behavior is fidgeting, leaving seats when shouldn't, runs or climbs, talk excessively, has trouble waiting turn, interrupts. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a serious condition that can develop after a person has experienced or witnessed a traumatic or terrifying event. We commonly relate PTSD to people who were in the military and service, but it is very common within every day-to-day people as well. Some symptoms may include a lasting consequence of traumatic ordeals that cause intense fear, helplessness, or horror, such as a sexual or physical assault, the unexpected death of a loved one, an accident, a war, or a natural disaster. Most people who experience a traumatic event will have reactions that may include shock, anger, nervousness, fear, and even guilt. The guilt can be something that they did something wrong, even if they had nothing to do with the fact. They just feel guilt that it happened to them. Some more symptoms of PTSD and trauma are reliving. You relive the experience, constantly avoiding. You may want to avoid anything associated with that person or event, including the person, place, or thought itself. Increased arousal and negative cognitions and mood. This refers to thought and feeling related to blame, estrangement, and memories of the traumatic event. Impact of childhood trauma. The brain development, it can be smaller in size, less efficient in processing, impaired stress response. The cognition is impaired readiness to learn, language delays, difficulty in problem solving. Physical health can be sleep disorders, eating disorders, poor immune systems, and emotions, difficulty controlling emotions, trouble recognizing emotions, feelings of helplessness, lack of self-sufficiency, relationships, poor understanding of social interactions, problems in romantic relationships, some mental health, be depression, anxiety, negative self-image, PTSD, suicide, behavior to be poor self-regulation, social withdrawal, aggression, sexual acting out, adolescent pregnancy, drug and alcohol misuse, and risk-taking / neglect. People who have experienced trauma are 4 times more likely to become an alcoholic, 4 times more likely to develop a sexually transmitted disease, 4 times more likely to ingest drugs, 15 times more likely to commit suicide, 2.5 times more likely to smoke tobacco, 3 times more likely to have serious job problems, 3 times more likely to experience depression, 3 times more likely to use antidepressant medication, and 3 times more likely to be absent from work. Bipolar, maniac depression, some maniac symptoms or manic symptoms can be severe changes in mood from unusually happy to irritable, angry, or aggressive. Great increase in energy levels, sleeps little without being tired, increase in talking, talks too much, too fast, changes topics too quickly and cannot be interrupted. Depressive symptoms can be frequent sadness or crying, withdrawal from friends and activities, extreme sensitivity to rejection or failure, recurring thoughts of death, suicide, or self-destruction, destructive behavior, and major changes in habits such as oversleeping or overeating. ODD is oppositional defiance disorder. Ranges from 6%. Boys range from 6% to 16%. Girls from 2 to 9%. ODD is a condition in which a child displays an ongoing pattern of uncooperative, defiant, hostile, and annoying behavior towards people in authority. This child's behavior often disrupts child's normal day-to-day activities. Some signs and symptoms can be throwing repeated temper tantrums, blaming others for your mistakes, swearing or using obscene language, and being spiteful and seeking revenge. Some risk factors can be genetics, stressful events, abuse or trauma, learned behavior, seasonal changes, that's why we hear like seasonal depression, ongoing stress and anxiety, brain injury. Okay. That's mine, I guess. So, I personally struggle with anxiety and depression. It's genetic in my family. We all have mental health illnesses and disorders. The main one being anxiety and depression that I got passed down. It kind of, I guess, something kicks off, like, to start you feeling that way. Mine was when my parents got divorced and my dad just, like, completely up and left us. I mean, we still have contact, but he just left. So it's something triggered. I get very irritable, like, if he came in a little earlier, we both were arguing back and forth over silly things. I personally don't take medicine, or a lot of people do take medicine. It can just help just make it easier to deal with. I personally don't, because I don't like medicine. There are different things you can do. I like to talk. I don't know if you can tell a little. I like to talk. I like to just have something that at the end of the day I can do to calm down my stress. Sometimes it's hard for me to get up in the morning and go to sleep at night, but you kind of have to have a balance somewhere, and not everybody can, do that. Not everyone can take medicine. Not everyone can do. So some people need a balance of either both or something completely different. Maybe an activity that they need to put 5 minutes aside during the day to just do on their own. I have a little PTSD about my birthday, traumatic experience that happened, and if you already have, so I already have anxiety, so it just makes it a little hard for me to, because it kind of, I overthink with anxiety, and then the PTSD makes me remember what happened. So, yeah.
So wait, so how do you feel about all that? How would you recommend parents to talk to their kids about it?
If you talk to your kids about it, don't push it, because if you push it, it's just going to make it worse. If you say, like, I'm open to talk to you, I'm not going to judge, and then you don't go back on your word. Do not go back on your word on that. Don't judge the kid, because one thing that, is really hard to do is talk about it in the first place, especially if you're pushed. So don't push it, and let them willingly come to you first, and let them know that you're open and not going to judge no matter what they say, and you'll help them, or you'll listen to them, respect their decisions, what they want to do within reason. I mean, there's some, but definitely don't push for anything.
Can I ask a question about
Yeah.
that? So then you take the parenthood away from being a parent when you do that. So and I might be wrong on this, but so I'm the parent.
Yeah.
I have a child who has, I was in the military,
Yeah.
and I know people with PTSD. When do you stop being you don't have to push your kid, but to agree with your child and not push them? Are you doing them justice by not trying to be the parent?
No, I mean, obviously be the parent. Like, I thought because that's like saying, if you let your child, you don't know what could happen between the 5 minutes of you not push. I'm not saying push them. I'm saying don't push them to, a point, but you as a parent know your child more than anybody else. If you need to push your child, you need to push your child. Saying if your child's not like that, and they will come to you, let them come to you. Let them know, I know something's wrong, talk to me. But if you know that they need to be pushed, to be told that because something's extremely off, then do it. Because that's happened to me before. My mom has definitely pushed me before, and I've been mad in that moment, that week. But it really helped me because I needed that. Definitely. No, I like to misspeak sometimes, so definitely that was a good thing, because you need to push sometimes. That's your job as a parent. You do what you know is right for your child. I totally understand that. I get where you're coming from. So.
And sometimes it's, so as her parent, sometimes I'd say I see something has changed in you. I hear in your voice something is going on with you. I can see something is happening. Either you need to talk to me now, or you need to journal it, or you need to do something, or we need to make an appointment with the therapist. We see a therapist jointly. So I see a therapist, it's the same therapist. I see one, she sees the same one, and then we see them jointly so that we work on things together.
Oh, so you're mother daughter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that, okay.
No, it's fine.
I came in the middle, I'm sorry.
No,
My
you're
bad.
good, you're good.
Okay, hey, I'm just trying to
No,
get you.
no, I mean, I'm saying try to have different outlets. If you feel like, and if you feel pushing your child is obviously worth it, then push it, because at the end of the day they may be mad at you for however long, but it could ultimately end up saving their life if it comes to that point. You want to save the life, but if you have different outlets, say, I know something's wrong with you, maybe write it down. Maybe we can go over it. Maybe write me a letter and we'll read it together. Maybe draw something and we'll go over what it means. Depends on your child. I mean, every single person is different, especially every child. So, I mean.
And the issue was is that because I grew up with the same disorder, I knew exactly, I knew the second she was going down the spiral. I knew, I could still see it to this day, that day. And so that's when I knew she had to go see a therapist. She had to get help immediately. And so because I had experienced it myself, I saw that day.
And obviously not every parent experiences what their child
Yeah.
goes through. So,
And she was only 5 at the time. So, I mean, but I saw it. Because I had gone through the same thing. And it happened when my parents divorced, and it happened when her father and I divorced. So, anyway, continue. Anyone else have questions?
I
for
mean,
her?
no, it was a good question, like, obviously, because it can come across as, like, laid back when you need to come to your child, I get that, totally, I get it. This one, I'm fine, she put that in there, means freak out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. I feel like this comes from your child. If your child, the way they say it, they say I'm fine and they're laughing about it, and it's something that they're fine. But if they say they're fine and they're obviously not, okay, I think, like, for example, then would be a good time to, like, try to push, like, obviously something's not wrong, talk to me. A lot of times we just hear I'm fine and don't realize that it could be them just not knowing how to reach out for help. We already went over that. And emotional describing how you feel is really hard. There's different words, different phrases. It can be extremely hard, especially when you're feeling those emotions in that minute, to explain. So like some words instead of mad could be rage, furious, peaceful could be content, relaxed, sad could be lonely, stupid, miserable, scared can be rejected, helpless, weak, powerful could be proud and valuable, and joyful, for example, could be excited or daring or stimulating or amused or playful. Emotion wheels, it's definitely hard for people in the household to explain their emotions. For example, like just having one there, like pointing to, oh, well, how are you? What word like describes how you're feeling or something? It gives them more range of just sad and mad. They could be like, oh, I'm feeling powerful today, or I'm feeling.
So I actually introduced this to her because she kept saying, I feel sad, I feel sad. And I'm like, well, what does that mean exactly? You feel sad. And so I found this emotion wheel, and we started going through what every word meant. Every day we go over 1 or 2 words, what they meant. So within a month, she knew what all the words meant and everything like that. So when she said she felt sad, she could narrow it down even more. So that would help me to know exactly what she felt. So then I would know more on how to talk to her about it, and then we could talk. And so it was really important for her to be able to talk to me in a way I could understand, and then be able to talk to her in a way that she could understand too.
How to help is knowing the warning signs, knowing the signs and symptoms, educate yourself about mental illnesses, talk openly about mental illnesses. I know it may sound repetitive, like talk, but it really does help at the end of the day, because the more you know how to communicate, the more you can communicate. Have conversations in general. Sit down, take time out to have conversations if you can. Be supportive, not enabling. Don't be dismissive or use judgmental language. Consult a pediatrician or a therapist, and get a referral for a mental health specialist. At the top two, there's a national parent helpline and a national crisis text line, and also the national suicide prevention lifeline. And what to do if your child is in crisis. Okay, expressing,
So if your child is in crisis, if they are suicidal, you want to try to reduce the situation by talking them down as you can, to de-escalate the situation. If you cannot, you will want to call 911. Ask for a CIT police officer. That is a crisis intervention team. That is someone that's been trained in mental health. I actually train the police up in our area for this, and they will come and try to de-escalate the situation. They will take the person to be Baker acted, which is a 72-hour hold, and then the person is released if there's no other incidents. If they are in immediate danger. Now, if they're not in immediate danger, they may release them back to you, or it just depends on what is currently going on. The other thing you need to know also is in July, the crisis line, it's a 1-800 number, will be switched to a 988 number. So you will not be dialing 1-800-273, I forgot what the number is. You'll be dialing 988. It hasn't officially come out yet. They're saying July, so I'm hoping it's July. That it'll be an easy number to remember.
Try to de-escalate the situation. For example, speak slowly and confidently with a gentle, caring tone. Do not argue or challenge the person. Do not threaten. Do not raise your voice or talk too fast. Use positive words instead of negative words. Stay calm and avoid nervous behavior. Do not restrict the person's movement. Try to be aware of what may increase the person's fear and aggression, and take a break from the conversation. Obviously, you're going to need to talk to them, but just to de-escalate them to a point where you can talk to them and can figure out what's going on. These are just some, obviously, if that's not what works, but these are just to try to bring them down so you can have that conversation and figure out what's going on. Protective factors in mental health, healthy practices, high self-esteem, good problem-solving skills, feeling of control in their own life, spirituality, avoiding alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, consistent home and family routine, parental support, monitoring abuse activities, regular school attendance and academic performance, regular work attendance and performance, having a good social support system, economic security, availability of constructive recreation, community bonding, and feeling close to at least one adult. That's it, I guess.
So any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We met before.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I have an 11-year-old girl who's been recently diagnosed with autism. And anxiety right now is like the major problem. I mean, it's completely almost out of control. She's having fears. She doesn't want to sleep alone, and she used to sleep alone. She's having fears of something that she saw on the internet, and even though it's not even real, it's something something that can't ever happen in real life. She tells me, Mom, I know that's not real, that it's not gonna happen, but my mind doesn't understand it. And it's just getting worse and worse, and she's afraid of something happening to me while I'm in my own room, for example.
Right.
She goes like, I'm afraid that something is gonna happen to you. Yeah, Julieta, but I'm in my room. And she goes, yeah, but my mind, doesn't stop. So how do you
So
help?
the thing of it is it probably is, as much as she says it's not real, in her subconscious it's real. So, there's times where when you were really little, you thought things were real that weren't real, and we would have to work through them. We just took them step by step by step. And she worked through them, we worked through them together, took them step by step by step. And literally over like a month, we did that. And it was just like, okay, so explain the whole situation. Let's write it all down. And then let's do the situation. And then her brain saw it and said, okay, this is not real. And so finally seeing it and doing it together, let her brain see that it couldn't happen. So, but for some reason, it's caught in her brain that it's going to happen. My son has the same thing. He has a thought in his brain. It has to be acted out to show that it can happen or it can't happen. Because it's in his brain that it can happen. Whether it's a positive or a negative thing, it's still in his brain.
Yeah.
So, until we could show him or prove to him or he proves to us, either way, it's just the way that he thinks. That's the way he thinks. So sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's just that constant repeating of it,
And like she said something about internet. Like I have him, he was Baker Act at the school. While he was Baker Act at the school, they put him with another little boy who choked him.
Yeah.
Almost choked him. And then keep beating on him. The hospital never said anything to me.
Yeah.
And then when he come home, nobody said, he was almost like fighting for his life. Nobody said anything.
Because nobody knew.
But you called the nurse, but the nurse never told me that. So then he came home, he wouldn't even sleep in his room because he thinks the boy gonna be coming and choke him.
Yeah.
And for months, he wouldn't sleep in his room.
Right.
Because sometimes, like she said, she's something in the movie and the internet and everything,
Right.
it just like PTSD or whatever they just
Right.
saw, and then it just stayed because of the way their minds work.
Right.
It stays in them, in the mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, that does happen. It gets stuck in their mind a certain way, and you have to work it out
Yes.
to show that it's not going to happen.
Mhm.
That little boy's not going to be able to come to our house,
You know?
and he's not going to be able to get into your bedroom.
And
And we're going to show you how
Mhm.
everything's locked down,
Mhm.
but he's going to have to work out in his own mind that is not going to happen.
and then I told him I'm gonna make sure you never Baker Act again. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? In a way, because the thing is, they didn't have to Baker Act him,
Yeah.
but they did.
So,
So, but it happened, and then all those things happened, but we just have to make sure
so
he knows.
if he got Baker Acted at school,
Mhm.
does he have an IEP?
He has an IEP.
Did they
Even
follow the behavior plan?
They didn't follow the behavior plan at that time because they dropped it because they said he was doing fine. Even our doctor was actually on the phone with them, tell them, bring him to me. If he needs to be Baker Act, we will Baker Act him. But
Yeah.
send him to me. They didn't, and they sent him somewhere
Oh,
where
jeez.
they sent him to a hospital where first of all they didn't even have room for him. They said they were gonna send him to another county. I said no.
Yeah.
And then they Baker Act him, and then they put all of them in the room. And for him, the little boy they put him with, he was like off the chart and almost kill him when he's there.
Okay. I hope you got your behavior plan updated on
No,
your
we
IEP?
did, oh, we did, we had behavior, and then he didn't go back to that school, because
Okay.
they, like, I'm like, no,
Yeah,
actually,
good
they
idea.
had to do a whole, my case scholarship for me,
Yeah,
to put him in another school. I said, he's not going back,
yeah,
we are not gonna take any chance over there. And
right.
then they ended up giving me, a new school, and we spent the 2 years, I think, over there. And then COVID come, actually, right after that COVID came, so we did a year and then half of the year at school last year, and now he's actually in a great middle school.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have 2 girls with autism and generalized anxiety disorder, and both of them are not very verbal. So whenever
How old are
we
they?
try to do any kind of therapy or anything like that, they immediately just want to send me to a psychiatrist, because they're like, well, the talk therapy's not going to work because we don't have a good verbalization to really understand where they're coming from. So we're gonna send you to the psychiatrist, and then we start trying to immediately go to medications, and so.
Okay, so this lady here has we were talking about biofeedback therapy.
Mhm,
There's also this thing called play therapy.
mhm.
So find a therapist that does that.
Play therapy or
Yeah.
biofeedback.
Yeah, because those work. Actually, Isabella, I took her to like 2 or 3 therapists that did play therapy. She's
Mhm.
like, look, I don't want a play therapist. I want someone I can talk to.
And I was like one of them.
So,
You're a talker.
yeah, she's a talker. So yeah, so we had to switch up. No, I don't want play therapy. I want somebody I can talk to.
But I mean, it's nice though because like she talks to you while you're playing, and she literally like made it very clear, if you don't want to talk, you don't have to. Just first let's get yourself comfortable, and then play game. And as you're playing games, she like figures out what she can do for you, or like they figure out what they can do for you while they're playing. It's like very interesting. It was interesting, but not for me personally.
Because she's never done
Yeah, they have a lot of thoughts that, like, oh, if my youngest gets, in trouble for any little thing, like just say no or anything, and then it's you guys hate me, like she throws it all out of
Yeah.
proportion. Like I was like, I'm just telling you not to do something,
Yeah.
and not in any stern voice or anything, but
How
it's
old is
just she's 12.
Oh,
Well, that's-
preteen.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's
Hello.
No,
yeah. It's getting worse as the hormones come
Yeah.
into play, but yeah.
This one said we all hate him every day. Okay, right here, sir. Do we like you at home?
Yeah.
Okay, but you do, when you want to hurt our feeling, what do you say? You don't want to be in this family, and you hate us. You're gonna move out.
Yeah.
And I said I'll help him pack.
Yeah. My mom's helped me pack when I was
You know, I was
little
like,
too.
you want to go to a nice group home? Let me help you pack.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the OCD. I have a very special daughter. She's 8, but not developmentally 8. But she's starting to like claim spots of the floor of the house.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a behavioral therapist that comes in, but no one's really addressed how to get her through not claiming the spot. And she gets very upset if you step on the spot. Whereas my husband's cleaning the house, he has to clean her spots first, where she sits or where you walk into her room. It's very unusual. I've not had anybody help me with this particular problem, but it becomes a very big, huge issue for her. Like, she's extremely upset about it.
So
But
make
if
it
you don't-
into a positive. Turn it into a positive. These are your spots.
I
These are
told her
what
that.
you
That's
take
what I'm
care
doing.
of.
Yes,
You
it's-
take care of these spots.
Yeah.
We're not responsible
That's
for them.
exactly
I
what I
love
do.
you for you taking care of your spots.
I tell her, go get your broom, clean your spot.
Yeah.
That's what I tell her.
So,
Yeah, it was sort of when you were going through the thing and saying if you don't deal with the OCD, it can take over the life. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm already seeing it. It's happening.
yeah.
Young still.
Yeah.
And in her mind, maybe closer to 4 to 6 years old. She's
Yeah.
behind. but already it's like, it's running a whole world at home, you know? And, yeah, I don't know. Who helps you with that? Just keep working on it a million times?
Yeah, just
That's what
anytime.
I've been told.
Well, I tell you, I have to tell my son 1,000 times, show him how to do something 1,000 times, and 1,001th time he's got it. But I have to do it those 1,000 times before he gets it.
I've heard that from therapy, so.
Yeah.
I just came in, but with that being said, how do you prevent yourself from getting burnt out?
See, you should have taken the class that I did before this one.
Well,
It
yeah,
was called self-care.
That's the thing with a concurrent thing, you just juggle at the same time, but I need to get information on that, because I like the topic. Right?
Information on what?
No, right, on what you taught, you said the class, right?
Yeah.
So I just need information on it.
On
something-
self-care?
Huh?
On self-care?
Whatever it is that.
She had another class before this.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
I have a question, but I just want to say something to that young lady over. So I work military. I was working with a military family who had a child that started out with claiming certain areas that went into colors, that went into numbers, that went into, and so her world became so small that literally she just wanted to be in her room because her mind connected something, usually negative, to every thing that was. Anyway, they ended up finding a place in Tampa, and it was an inpatient treatment, and they were very successful with that. So I don't know
Okay,
if
there's
that's,
hope.
yes, and yeah, so I don't know if that will help that,
We've
but.
gone to Tampa for feeding therapy, and we have accomplished a lot.
Okay,
I mean,
well, then
if
maybe
you
that
do
might
an intensive,
help.
it was a month long, and it was totally worth it, so
Awesome.
now I know there's some.
There
other
is something out there,
ways that we
unfortunately, I
can-
can't remember the name of
Yeah.
it, but there's something out there. But
Okay, I'm gonna
Isabella,
keep looking.
first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing your story, because that was good, and for me, that produces anxiety right there, so. But anyway,
Just a little.
just from your perspective, so mental health, listening to your presentation is obviously something that's, everybody has mental health, but there's a lot of things. So do you find that kids talk to each other about this, or do they not?
So, I mean, personally, everywhere you go is different, because I know my school is a lot more open, and you hear that high schools, and you think of cliques. My school, we have friend groups, but everyone's either fine with each other or leaves each other alone, mostly, for the most part. But I know there is some people that come in and oh yeah, it's very different, because we don't as much. There is, I would say personally from my point of view, there is a lot of kids joking about their mental health, definitely about depression. Obviously, you know that they're joking, but you have to at some point say, go get help.
Are they joking, or are they opening a door for maybe someone to
Yeah,
say
so
that?
it's kind of both.
But you also have told me you have lots of friends that come to you and say, how do I talk to my parents?
Yeah, that's another one is parents. I remember one time my friend came to me and was like, I really am struggling with this, and I was like, well, maybe you should go talk to someone. And they're like, but I can't. Every time I talk to my parents about it, they just tell me no. So that was a really big one too, because if their parents say no, but they need that help, what should they do either instead, or to give, maybe get the help they need? Or some parents can't afford it, so what can we do for each other, as a friend group, or what can they do, can we do to make sure that they are okay to get help in any way? Because some people can't afford therapy, or their parents just straight up tell them no for therapy. So, that's a big concern for school, but I would say we do talk. Good. It's mostly joking though, because it's harder for us to straight up go, hey, I don't feel good, I feel depressed, I feel anxious, I feel like someone's fault. We don't do that. We might joke about it, but it's more joking in a way to say anything.
Trying to get it out a little bit. I just
Yeah.
worry, because when I grew up, there wasn't social media.
Right.
Now there's social media, and people can get really
Everything.
awful on
Yeah.
social
Yeah,
media.
Yeah.
social media,
It's horrible.
social media. So I actually personally have a cousin who she has a great life. She's really pretty. She's a cheerleader. She's very out there. She's very pretty. And she got so self-conscious because of somebody she was with, and because of social media helped with it, that she kept looking and comparing. I feel like it's different for everybody, because some people, they don't care what other people look like. Some people they do. Some people want to be mean. Some people take the we learn in school, on social media, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Some people take that seriously, some people don't. So I'd say with social media, it's iffy depending on the person and what you learn, and if you actually take that into account. But social media can be very difficult, because you never know who's going to try to contact you. Or you never know who's going to say something about you, or saying something about you behind your back. Is the most thing I think everyone worries about, is what are they going to say behind my back? What are they saying that I don't know? Because I'd rather know than not know. So.
Yeah.
Jill, I was just gonna piggyback on the lady that came in a little late. You were saying in your class that you taught before this one, there's a lot of good stuff. I missed it too. There's a lot of good stuff in there about self-care. How do we take care of ourselves? How do we de-stress? How do we look at the situation and stuff like that? So how would, for us who missed it, how would we get access to that, that data?
In the back, there's a sign-in sheet.
Okay,
And
you can email
you
it
can
to
just
us.
put a check by your name, and I can send you that training.
Okay, cool.
Or I have some business cards, and you can take that and send me an email saying, hey, I want your
I'll do both.
self-care.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
just quick, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, you go.
Right, question. Did you talk about anything on mental health earlier?
On mental health?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think after the shooting in Texas, I think that I have a solution that could possibly be a solution to the killing in school. Sometimes when you have a drastic or something catastrophic happen, your brain goes into action and you get ideas, and that's where everything is developed in a thought, maybe a single thought. And I don't know who I can share this idea with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could share it with all of us.
With the group? Yeah, so what came to my mind like a day or two after the shooting, right, is I think that there should be a registry like they have for every other offender, like sex offenders, whatever you call them, right? I think they should have a registry, all right. I think the lobbies, legislators, and Congress and all that should do more of a thorough screening or some intervention for persons with mental health, right? Like the young lady mentioned, people in school talk jokingly. It's not a joke. It should not be a joke. And I think that whether it be a kid or adult, I think that those should be documented in somewhere, maybe like a registry. And my next big thing on that is that such persons, along with the persons that sell the guns, should have a list of certain individuals that should not get guns, buy guns, or anything like that.
No. I totally disagree.
You're infringing on people, you can't do that.
I'm
because-
disagreeing.
Well, you're
No, it's just a
infringing
thought.
people's
It's a
rights.
thought, though.
No, it's a good thought, but.
Oh, okay.
Wait. I just want you to hear one statistic.
Yeah.
The statistic is that people with mental health disorders are more likely to get killed or harmed by other people than to be for them
To
to
kill
harm
somebody else?
somebody else.
Really?
Really.
Oh.
They
Okay.
very rarely kill other people. And it's very rarely do they kill other people. They usually kill themselves. It's usually that they do suicide. It's just you don't hear about it because it's not newsworthy.